Kilo Echo Zero Delta Golf Bravo.
Roger, Roger. And what's the name there?
Jim. How you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We aren't getting much of that. We need some rain. We aren't getting much of that rain from the hurricane, but it has cooled it off just a little bit down here in Missouri.
Roger, Roger. Well, welcome in, sir. Like I say, we don't usually go west, but I'll take it, Roger.
And you're sounding good today.
What radio are you running, sir?
Sometimes better and sometimes worse, but you're sounding good into southwest Missouri. I want to congratulate you on that ARRL radio host for running your net. That was good to hear.
Yes, sir. I really thankful for that, and thankful for everybody that's helped, contribute to me getting that. Really appreciate everybody's joining us on Friday afternoons. So we kind of bounce around and try to help out some folks' audio if we can. The whole thing about our situation is that what we want to do is try to help folks run the best audio that they can in the transmit mode. That's our main thing, and what we start with is 10 dB of dynamic range, which is the average speech without any processing. It's usually said to be 10 dB of dynamic range. But that's too wide a range to actually be able to transmit efficiently. So what we want to do is kind of squash that down to about 3 dB dynamic range, and that makes for a much fatter transmit signal and a whole better situation of signal to noise ratio. And so to get our 3 dB dynamic range, we have to squash about 7 dB of normal speech to get it. So we thought about it for a while, and then we came up with maybe we could get 4 dB of squash in the compressor limiter, running it at a 3 out of 10 bare minimum, but maybe we can get 4 dB of compression there. And then as we adjust the ALC, we adjust it up to where we can get about 3 dB of limiting by our audio mic control, by running that ALC meter mid-scale to 2/3. So we pick up another 3 dB of limiting there. So our end result is 3 dB dynamic range in the transmit mode, and that makes for a very efficient transmission. Long way to go to get there, Jim. Roger?
Oh, I understand. Sorta. You putting any beds in that ambulance? Or is it just going to be a vehicle you drive in and have a bunch of radio stuff in?
Oh no, it's got the biggest bed. Sometimes when it's time for bed, the bed is almost the whole thing. I mean, my philosophy on that ambulance is that it should be the best of whatever it is at whatever time it's supposed to be. So when it's doing its function, it is, and today, like I say, we got the air conditioning in, and we'll be trying to run that in the economy mode, and we did pull it down to 67 degrees today, so I think we're going to do fairly well there, and that helps us. Oh boy, before we just had a fan in the back window, which was nice, but it didn't take out the humidity, so you could be in a breeze and be totally wet with sweat. Roger?
Yeah, no, I don't have an ambulance, but I got a big old Ford van. And it sits out there in the heat, and it does. Whenever you get in it, you got to get those windows down and the AC on.
Oh, roger that. Yeah, this has got, it's called the Million Mile motor. It's a diesel F350 7.3. Roger.
How many miles has it got on it now, Jim?
I have no idea, but I know it's gone around a few times. This is a 1989 ambulance, you know, so I am sure that it has gone around a few times. But you know, they do call it the million-mile motor, Roger.
So you haven't had any trouble with that at all?
No. Now, it is peculiar as far as when it starts. That sucker wants to take off. When I go to start, you know, you have in a diesel, you have a delay, so the glow plugs can do whatever they do, you know, for about 10 seconds when you get ready to start it, or 15, somewhere in there. And after you know, you hit the key, and then it says wait, and those glow plugs are working there, and you can tell they're working because they take a 100 amp discharge for the time that the glow plugs are running. So I think all of the glow plugs are working. I can't see how you could have more of a discharge than 100 amps. That's a bunch, you know, but it's only for like 10 or 15 seconds. And then, you know, you start it. Well, that sucker wants to go in the first second and a half. It's ready to go, but sometimes it starves itself. I mean, it'll crank and it's up there, and I can keep, if I keep the RPMs up, you know, it's okay. But if I don't, and the RPMs fall down, it'll usually maybe, you know, stall, and I'll have to restart it. And it will restart then. It takes about 3 times to go. So I think what is happening is I'm getting a little air in the fuel lines somewhere, you know. I don't know for sure. I've been bleeding various parts from, you know, from over a period of time, Roger.
Yeah, air. You don't have quite enough pressure in that fuel pump, and so it starts. I don't know.
Yeah. I put a new fuel filter in, and it didn't seem to really affect it too much. I'm going to put one of those glass fuel filters in so I can see just exactly what the level of fuel is before I go to start it. You know, it is 1989, so they used mechanical fuel pumps back then. So the deal is possibly that there's limited amount of fuel, and so there's enough to start but not enough to run. So with that glass fuel filter up there by the other fuel filter, I'll be able to tell exactly what the diesel fuel level is, Roger.
Yeah, I'll give you a better idea of what's going on. You better see when it's running, what's going on, and like you say, when you start it, it's empty, or it'll give you a better idea.
Yeah, so it should be. It's a challenge, you know, like everything else. I mean, you know, if you got the money, you can go, you know, buy a $500,000 vehicle to do that. But on the other hand, sometimes other things are more interesting and challenging, Roger.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. And you get it made just exactly the way you want it, too, Jim.
Well, that's right. We did cut some of the back normal. It's got a bunch of cubbies. On the outside, it's got cubbies. On the inside, it's got cubbies. So we did cut one of the two. Well, it's got 4 cubbies on the driver's side back in the house, we call it. And I did drop 2 of those to make a place for a large screen TV. I think I can get about maybe a 50-incher in there, Roger.
That's surprising, but I can believe it, because you see those big, well, they aren't real big, but those Sprinters, those Mercedes Sprinters, Dodges used to make them too, but they got those decked out pretty nice for RVs.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've, you know, pretty much been watching from YouTube a bunch of folks and their different conversions and getting ideas. Like this air conditioning, you know, there is a gentleman that did put an air conditioner back in one of the outside rear cubbies, and boy, that was a bunch of drilling and sawzall work there to get that hole cut in there, but he did, and he's got his air conditioner in that outside cubby. Now the problem is, for him to run that, he's going to have to keep that cubby door open, and he can't run it going down the highway because he can't get the air in there with that cubby door closed. So that's why I moved mine up to the front. I thought I could do it that way, but I couldn't get rid of the heat. So right now, when I went back to that rear door, at the top window in the rear door, man, that is just the cat's meow. That's exactly the perfect place for that, and we can run that AC as we tool down the highway, Roger.
Yep. Yeah, you'll be able to. Yeah. And it's not taking any space up. It's taking as little space up as possible. The rest of it's sitting outside.
Well, that's right. That's right. And that's the whole trick of, that's the whole thing about an air conditioner. You got to keep that outside part outside. And if you like when I was up in that front cubby trying to run it, I couldn't get enough air circulation to keep it cool. But right now, the way we've got it in the window in that rear door, boy, it's just like a regular house window situation. It just works perfectly, Roger.
Yeah, well, that's what for that house rent too, Ken. So yeah, well, you said you got it down to 67. I'd say it'd probably do it. It'd probably get a little cooler than that.
Well, I don't know. Probably if we ran it in the cool mode, it would. But we're going to try to run it in the economy mode, which I think that's about 600 watts. I think in the economy mode, and that's pretty much where we want to try to keep it. Now we do have, our AC system right now is it's a 2,000 watt inverter, and that ambulance alternator is 160 amp or 190 amp. I forget what it is, but it does great. Diesel the best thing a diesel does is idle, particularly an ambulance, man. That motor has got unknown hours of idle on it, Roger.
You know it. You see them sitting around here a lot of times, just sitting in a lot waiting for a call and running that air conditioner and just sitting back waiting.
That's it. Now, the thing is, it all depends on where you buy your ambulance from. Now, if you buy your ambulance from a large metropolis, that's their mode, is to go out and camp out in a position ready to respond. But on the smaller fire departments, and they usually run EMS and the fire department together, those things are in-house until they get a call, and they're not out idling. So if you get one from there, boy, it's practically got no miles on that motor.
Yeah, like you say, well, where did you end up finding yours at? Because like I say, you see them around, but boy, I'd wonder about it if I was going to buy one, Jim. And like I say, yeah, diesels are great, but I don't know anything about diesels either. I've always worked on gasoline engines.
Roger, me too. This is a new experience. The first time I heard that diesel, I said, my God, that motor's in trouble. But, diesels do make a lot of noise. And not all of that noise sounds right necessarily, but it is, and it's just the nature of a diesel to be mechanically loud, and this one does. This ambulance, the last, it had been licensed to a small community EMS service, and then somehow our sheriff in another county got involved, and we wound up having a sheriff's cell, and the guy that bought it without a title, and oh my goodness, if you ever try to bring a vehicle that doesn't have a title, well, we wound up, a judge had tried to assist this gentleman in getting it licensed, and he wrote a writ of whatever to help them get a title. And unfortunately, this guy was French, and he had 2 T's in his last name, and somewhere along the line he lost one of the T's in his spelling of his last name. So when he presented all of this package to the DMV up in Indianapolis, they kicked it all back to him because his name was misspelled by missing that T. Unfortunately, this gentleman was not in good health, and it did did die before he could get the situation qualified, and satisfied as far as getting the title. So I just took the whole thing, and I went back to the judge that did it the first time, and I said, "Sir, I know you tried to help resolve this issue before, but unfortunately the gentleman died, and I wonder if you might be able to help me again in the same way, and we'll try it one more time." And Judge did give me a request for our demand for title to be assigned to me, So we're getting ready. That's how close we are right now.
It sounds like that was a job then, Jim. You had to go see the judge, make an appointment to go see him, but that's what it takes. I can see you doing that.
Well, I mean, that's, it seemed to me to be a lot more sense to go through the judge that had already done that, as opposed to trying to find a judge in my county that didn't know me or didn't know anything about the situation, By the mere fact that this other judge in another county had already acted in that way the first time, just seemed like a natural to go back to him, and sure enough, he's been a great help, and so it should be, hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to get some more advice and get the package up there and get our title for it, and we'll be ready to go.
Sound like you're getting off the phone.
Roger. We haven't actually. I've started it, maybe 30 or 40 times. I've never driven it though. Without a tag, you can't go too far, Roger.
Yeah, I know, but you'd like to.
Oh yeah. I've got this little place. It's called Bill's Lake, and it's a small little place where they do some fishing, and that's been my target here for the last couple of months, is just making it to Bill's Lake, Roger. It's only about 8 miles away.
Yeah, that sounds like you're real close. Yeah, I'll get out of here. Somebody wants to get the radio shut. It's been good talking to you. I've enjoyed it. And I'll be listening. You take care. 73-80-KC9VKV.
Roger, Jim. Before you go, what radio did you say you're running? 7300? Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we keep doubling. You said a 7300?
That is correct.
Roger, Jim. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate that. Three's that way. You have a great afternoon and a beautiful weekend. This is KC9VKV, the Friday afternoon Qso-Vlog net. If you have a radio you want to check out, give me a shout.